A research done way back in 2013 by the Pew Research Center found that Malaysia has stood as the most pro-Japanese country in the entire world, finding out that over 80% of Malaysians see Japan favorable, while only 6% to be unfavorable, and the rest to be neutral. This survey, which was done all across the world, has been proved how much Malaysia is leaning over towards Japan. This had, in effect, become so due to the economic impact the Japanese had made towards Malaysia. In 2020, the two nations had a combined bilateral trade that sums up to about $27.2 billion, which makes Japan one of Malaysia's largest trading partners across the world, with Malaysia being favorable as it exports more than it imports to Japan, which is led by their exportation of petroleum. Furthermore, the Japanese and Malaysia bilateral trade has been consistently at large over the years, as it was just way back in 1995 that they also had a combined bilateral trade of about $27.3 billion. Japan has likewise also been a source of foreign direct investments toward Malaysia, consistently pouring out billions of dollars across the past decades. The Malaysian Investment Development Authority has reported that as of the end of 2021, there are over 1,500 Japanese companies operating across Malaysia and has, in total, created over 400,000 jobs. The two nations had shared incredible feats across its economy, culture, and people. Yet, just a little less than a century ago, the Japanese and Malaysians had seen each other as enemies, sparking conflicts and wars across the nation and leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. After all, Japan, 100 years ago, was an infamous imperial army that ruled over major parts of Asia. But to know and understand how Japan had quickly changed its ways and become one of Malaysia's most profound economic partners, we must first go back to history and understand centuries of relationship building. The Japanese-Malaysian historical relationships dates way back over centuries ago, but the most profound part of its rising maritime trade began around the 13th to 15th century, when the former Japanese kingdom known as Ryukyu Kingdom held trade relations with then Malacca Sultanate. It was a time when the Malacca Sultanate had been buying off Japanese products, ranging from swords to silver and even Chinese products, which were then later also used for trading back in Southeast Asia. This had improved the view of Malaysians to the Japanese and were likely carved out over time, passing down from generation to generation on the essence of Japanese goods that is going around the nation of Malaysia. Fast forward to the 20th century, however, when ideologies started to drift apart. The Japanese had this stance of launching offensive maneuvers across Southeast Asia as it positioned itself as a superpower, sparking the infamous Malayan campaign starting in December 8th of 1941 all the way to February 15th of 1942, a 2-month-long conflict that saw the vast majority of Malaysian and Allied troops disappear off of the map of Malaysia. An awful moment to happen in the history of the two nations. Soon after the war, however, the two nations then again re-established diplomatic relations, to which the first Japanese embassy was opened in Kuala Lumpur on the 9th of September 1957. As there are strong geostrategy that the two nations share, the improvement of bilateral relations was crucial for the economic growth of Malaysia and Japan. And as a few decades went by, Japan, who had gone from a wrecked economy, had gone on to quickly regain its spot as a world economic powerhouse. Malaysia had quickly zoomed in on leaning over Japan, pushing its economy and its people to look at the Asian giant. Hence, then Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad had announced the Look East policy in 1981, which was a follow-up policy after the Buy British Last policy. This initiative's goal was to study the Japanese and South Koreans on their economic traits and look at Western as the least nations to look up to. Students and civil servants alike had benefited from such, and hence it improved the visibility of the Japanese over the years, as the push from the government to look towards Japan as a nation to look up to had segmented over their minds. Further, Malaysia's government, influenced by this policy, had been a segue for Japanese companies to expand their interests within the nation's borders, to which the Japanese had been so thankful for, as they enjoyed excellent relations with the Malaysian economy and government. With the government establishing stronger foreign relations with Japan, it was well noted that around the 1980s, Malaysia had then emerged to become one of the largest sources of foreign investments from Japan's international push. The period period from 1985 to 1990 saw Malaysia as the largest recipient of Japan's big wave of investments. And it was even because of this so-called Look East policy that when the Asian financial crisis hit in the 1990s, Japan had stepped up to provide special funds to rescue the educational program set up by the Look East policy. Whereas the total $1 billion loan given to Malaysia during the crisis had seen a fifth of it going to student scholars. Throughout the decades from back then and today, we have evidently seen a massive success due to Japanese influence, whether that is through investments, education, and most importantly, business collaboration. A feat that has far exceeded expectations across Malaysia. Although at times it was not all that bright, as there were also consequences and failures along the way, some of which have become one of Malaysia's most failed businesses ever. Infamously known as Peraja Steel, a joint venture with the government-owned Heavy Industries Corporation and Japan's Nippon Steel Corporation. Peraja Steel had approximately lost over 10 billion ringgit or around 2.2 billion US dollars. Needless to say, Peraja Steel had indeed become a failure. There was still grand success, such as the Proton car maker, which is today Malaysia's largest auto manufacturer, which had found success along the way as it had been partnered with Mitsubishi Motors. And as noted by documents, Proton had relied heavily on Mitsubishi for their technology for their success. Although it's seen as a failure due to the fact that Proton failed to transfer the technology of its own and had to look elsewhere, such as buying a major stake at British company Lotus, Proton still had gotten to a somewhat moderate success. This Look East, which was introduced in the 1980s, had still worked its way up to today. It had even gone on to become a second wave known as Look East 2.0 in 2013, a cooperation that Malaysia still wants as it further deepens ties with the Japanese. And even in the most recent years, Japan has indeed proven to become a strong economic driver for the nation of Malaysia. Japanese companies have even reached out to the local firm Petronas to help enable Malaysia develop green technology and reach net zero emissions by 2050. Even futuristic technologies such as blockchain company ChainTrope is keen on expanding to Southeast Asia, with Malaysia as its regional hub, indicating how Malaysia has gone on to become an attractive investment destination. None of these, however, would match the potential likelihood of what Japan could bring if the scrapped project known as Kuala Lumpur-Singapore High-Speed Railway does indeed go ahead. A renowned project that would presumably copy the Shinkansen high-speed railway of Japan, whereas it would run over 320 kilometers per hour. As sad as it is, however, things are still going slow, or may not even see the light of such amazing infrastructure. Lastly, we can't obviously forget about the Malaysian-Japanese Defense Pact, a strategic partnership inked way back in 2015. A crucial and likely beneficial outcome due to the rising regional tensions we are seeing as of late. This could also lead us to Malaysian purchasing Japanese equipment, as the government had been increasing the annual defense budget higher as of late. But anyway, with all the things going on around Malaysia's economy, Japan stepping in over the course of the last decades, where do you think the two nations' relations are headed?